Welcome to part 3 of the update to the size and dynamics of the UK photonics industry. In this part, we're going to look at comparison of the photonics industry to other economic sectors and future developments in policy and how they may impact and provide opportunity for UK photonics. So let's look first at how photonics compares to other manufacturing sectors. So I've taken here data from the Office of National Statistics based on the top mostly two-level SIC codes. And what you can see is photonics sits here when you compare against employment along the bottom axis, turnover output along the vertical axis, and the number of firms, which is the size of the bubble. And you see photonics immediately employs 7 times more people than oil refining, 3 times more than steel production, double the number of people in specialist chemical production. But most interestingly, photonics employs twice the number of people employed in pharmaceutical manufacturing. It's very significant. In output terms, it's interesting that photonics is not that far behind air and spacecraft manufacturing, and photonics output is now only a quarter of motor vehicle output in the UK, and this is pre-COVID numbers. So the ONS numbers refer to 2018, so this is pre-COVID. Photonics is already 25% of motor vehicle output, and that is in a large number of firms. The number of firms we have in photonics is twice the number of people in pharma production, 10 times petroleum, far more than in chemical. So if you look relative to other aspects of the economy, £14.5 billion worth of photonics output is about 2.5% of UK manufacturing. 77,000 odd employees is again about 3% of manufacturing employment, which means 1 in 33 manufacturing jobs in the UK are in photonics. And that certainly makes photonics the 14th largest UK manufacturing sector. But if you look at our productivity, measured as gross value add per employee, at £85,000 per employee, we are the 5th most productive UK manufacturing sector, and that's very significant. We are 30% more productive than UK manufacturing average, and 17% more even than air and spacecraft manufacturing. And the composition of that industry is very much dominated by firms in this 10 to 100 million pound output. There aren't many super large ones, as I said before, with more than 100 million output, but there are a lot, 135 companies in the 10 to 100 million type size. So there are many large photonics companies, but not that large. International comparisons. There are 2 I will refer you to. The Optics and Photonics Industry Report produced annually by my good friend Steve Anderson at SPIE, which firmly puts the UK as the number 2 in Europe, number 7 globally, and estimates global photonics component production to be 282 billion. And I say that's photonics components only, that's a subset of the overall market. And the market enabled by photonics is $2 trillion. There's also been a new report by Photonics 21 produced by Tomatis, which again puts the UK as the number 2 producer in Europe at 15.6 billion euros in 2019, so the year earlier than our numbers. But the similarity of this number to ours in a completely different list shows how similar and robust the methodology is. And globally, they say that the market for photonics is 650 billion euros. So what's next? Well, in 2019, I did an analysis of the then UK industrial strategy and picked out 7 challenges and opportunities for photonics. What's interesting is to look at how these may change in 2021 and in the post-COVID era. First of all, in health, we of course see a much increased focus on health for all ages, and have seen a revolution in remote care and the adoption and acceleration of remote care in the health service. But we're also seeing a big focus on catch-up, a huge number of operations and standard procedures delayed by COVID-19, and with projections that it will take many years for health services, not just in the UK, but globally, to catch up on those delayed operations. It'll be really interesting to see what impact that has on health providers' ability to adopt new innovation. Will their focus on catch-up delay their ability to adopt new innovations, or will it focus their attention on innovations that support catch-up? In transport, of course, we've seen a big shift. 2 years ago, it was all about autonomous transport, autonomous vehicles. When were they going to appear on our roads? Now it's a much more nuanced and balanced discussion between how many days a week will we work from home, those of us who can, and how many will we need to commute. And that's seen a big shift. One of the biggest impacts of that is a big new focus on communications and connectivity. It's no longer all about data, but how do you get to the data? How are people connected? Who supplies that connectivity? We, of course, remain very much concerned about physical pollution in the air, land and sea, and reuse and recycling. But within the climate change world, we see a big new focus on net zero, targets to net zero, pathways to reach net zero as a distillation of sustainability and climate change into some firm targets around net zero. And it'll be interesting to see what impact that has on both policy and industry as they adjust to position themselves as providers of net zero solutions. In defence, of course, we remain very much interested in affordable, agile solutions. But in the MOD's Science and Technology strategy released last October, there was a big new focus on supporting understanding of generation after next capability. Investing now to understand where you should invest more significantly in a few years' time. And we might see that being a very significant shift in where money is put over the next few years. And in terms of deglobalization, of course, this argument has now shifted to one of resilience. Resilience against the pandemic, resilience against disruption to the supply chains. What capability do we need to have in the UK? Must we have in the UK? And where can we cautiously collaborate with others? These are a number of trends. They will continue to develop, but I very much encourage people to be cognizant of the subtle changes that are happening in the post-COVID era. So all of this has led to a number of developments in government policy. Out goes the industrial strategy, and in comes Build Back Better, released in the budget. Now, Build Back Better is actually a nest of many policies, so we need to look underneath that to see what's included in them. First, of course, was the integrated review, within which I very much encourage you to look at a paragraph in there that talks about government taking an active approach to building advantage through science and technology. This is a big new pan-government approach, an active approach to supporting science and technology. That's new. Now, where will that active approach be applied? Well, we very much await the new innovation strategy due any day. I hope that will indicate where that new innovation focus will be and will have a big impact on the direction of UK RI funding going forward. But I also expect we will see a more nuanced balance between focusing on big global markets and where we need strategic UK capability, and that will be a difference. Many of us are used to applications for support having to argue that they access or address a billion-dollar global market. Now it may be more billion-dollar global market and or strategic UK capability. That will be followed by an R&D in places strategy in 2021, later in 2021, supporting levelling up, of course. But in this, I would maintain cautious to assume that levelling up means spreading the money around into more locations. More, I suspect it will be focused on maintaining excellence and then looking to see how the investment that goes into an excellent, say, research location impacts the local environment in increasing that local impact. That's very important for us in photonics because we're a global industry, tend to be more aware of our global impact rather than, say, on supply chains down the road. And the R&D people and culture strategy will also follow with, I think, a focus on skills and training. It's important to realise, though, that these new strategies don't necessarily come with new money. That will come in the spending review. We had essentially an emergency spending review last year. Proper spending review is due in November in the autumn, and it will be important to engage in the consultations that take place around these strategies over the next few months to really build a case and understand how that should be reflected in the spending review. Of course, we need to get involved. Firstly, we need to grasp the active approach that I believe will be in that forthcoming innovation strategy. We shouldn't forget the telecommunications diversification strategy, where there's a big emphasis on making UK produced equipment available. And of course, optics is definitely getting closer to the consumer. I speak to you today from a fiber optic connection that comes direct to my desk, but it is also getting closer to the processor inside the data center. So there's a lot more optics coming in communications, which, as stressed before, is a major focus. Net zero, it's extremely important for photonics as an industry to be part of the net zero solution. And there are many aspects, both in generating electricity through PV, reducing energy consumption in data centers, in optics and data centers, and indeed in reducing waste in delicate and handling of delicate optics and optical surfaces, where we have a key role to play. But we need to be seen to be part of the solution. We need to lead in this area, not follow, for no other reason perhaps than to make sure that we are an exciting and interesting area for the next generation of people to come and work in. Levelling up, of course, we know is a major factor in UK government, and it's very important, as I said, as a global industry, we capture and understand our local impact. We don't just look to our international partners. Of course, we need to do this through engaging through Innovate, EPSRC, MOD, and the new ARIA research agency may offer intriguing opportunities. And these are all areas we need to actively be engaged in and continue discussions. So to wrap up, Photonics Leadership Group, as I hope you can see, specializes in bringing industry, academia, agencies and government together to try and make photonics bigger, better, faster, stronger. It's really pleasing to produce the new numbers this year. Look out for analysis of the market focus of photonics firms. And remember, UK has a leading transformative photonics industry. We definitely are the future. We're very much proud to be a $14.5 billion UK industry employing over 77,000 people and the 5th most productive manufacturing sector in the UK. Thank you.